May I now draw your attention to the minutes of the Disciplinary Committee hearing? The official minutes compiled by Sam Winter, Equities Governance Officer, and sent to me along with the judgment of that committee via my personal manager on the 22nd of May 2024. You will remember that I had been denied legal representation and was refused even the presence of my personal manager who deals with all my professional matters. I now draw your kind attention to A. Paul Fleming states on page 2 of the minutes, further, it was illegal to act as an agent. And he goes on to state later that the allegations were that David John was therefore behaving in a grossly unprofessional way. Oh. Nowhere in the rules can I find any mention that the Honorary Treasurer acting as an agent is illegal. Also, there's no mention in my post of David John acting in an unprofessional way, grossly or otherwise. After all, David John had only just been appointed to the post of Honorary Treasurer. B. Paul Fleming also states that David John was not aware that he had actually lost any work over this, which was confirmed by David John in his evidence later, which has been minuted. Further, Fleming goes on to say, for clarity, he did not and had not ever worked as an agent. Well, this statement is in direct contradiction of David John's own evidence, where he states on page 7 that he had been an assistant in an agent's office as a maternity cover for several months. And in the letter from Lee Day in December 2022, has admitted, which is when I first knew about it, he has admitted to acting and continuing to act as a casting consultant. Well, this is, as everyone in our business knows, being a sort of agent or gatekeeper to enable selected suitable applicants to be considered for employment. Is this providing equal opportunity for all members? And is this what an equity officer should be doing? Legitimate questions to ask, one would have thought. Now, David John is minuted as saying that he had never taken a commission from an actor. Of course not. Well, is there any evidence that I've ever said that he had? Of course not, either. I have never said that he had. Further, my evidence, minuted on page 8, makes it clear that I have never accused David John of any financial impropriety. And it goes on to say in the minutes that I was sorry if his feelings had been hurt. It will also be noted that on page 9 it is minuted, officially by Sam Winter, that I was glad that it could be seen that he, meaning me, and David John had no enmity towards each other, and that David John had accepted what he had to say. Well, David and I shook hands and even exchanged a theatrical hug, and that might have been expected to have been the end of the matter, one would have thought. What a storm in a teacup, I thought. And I thought, well, that would be that. What a waste of union's money. Oh, at the disciplinary hearing, David John also stated that he'd only heard about my post from Linda Rook, the president, who then took him to a meeting with Paul Fleming, the General Secretary Chief Executive, who then, in turn, arranged a consultation with solicitors. Well, all of the above suggests to me that there was a concerted plan, that I must be warned against any future unreasonable behaviour, as indeed demanded by David John in his letter of complaint to Equity. This all seems to me to be an unreasonable curtailment of my rights to free speech in dissent. Well, notice that the Disciplinary Committee met on May the 1st, 2024. Just remember that. We now come to the penalties decided upon unanimously by the panel of the Disciplinary Committee. Mary Lane, Victoria Brazier, Sean Biggerstaff, fellow equity members, but members of the Equity Council, appointed to the Disciplinary Committee by the Council. It is my submission that in addition to the arguments already made, if you look at their judgment, they refer to false allegations made by me, with no evidence backing that up. They ban me from participating in any elections and holding any office within equity for 5 years. One can't help wondering why Linda Rook is so frightened of facing me in a democratic election, and I've taken no part in equity politics for 30 years, but she's been a busy bee rushing around everywhere, proving what a wonderful socialist she is. Therefore, all the odds are already stacked in her favour. So why was she scared of facing me in the election, one wonders. Also, the fine. The fine is equivalent to a year's subscription, and it's outrageous in my opinion, because the Disciplinary Committee, in their judgment, say, we encourage the union to pay the fine into the benevolent fund as a mark of respect to the honorary treasurer who administers the fund. Well, one would hope that people donate to this charitable fund to help members in need, not as an act of servile obeisance to David John, the honorary treasurer, or any other honorary treasurer. The political and personal vendetta against me is again demonstrated by my fact that at the same time the Equity Committee elections were taking place for the Equity Council, and my name as a candidate was confirmed in correspondence from independent scrutineers UK Engage, which I placed before the committee. My candidacy was also confirmed in an email from Equity's Governance Officer Sam Winter, which was also presented to the committee. And my name was also published on the Equity website, and I've given the screenshot of that also to this committee. Then, suddenly, my name was removed from the website. To this date, I've not been told why my name was not on the ballot paper. And remember that my name was removed as a candidate and from the ballot paper before the Disciplinary Committee had even met to decide on whether the complaint against me was justified or not. Is this democracy? Really, I find it hard to believe. This means that the elections were held without the members of our union being given the opportunity to vote for me or not as Equity President, or indeed to the general list of the Equity Council. Now, you can tell me whether you think it's fair that a penalty can be enacted before even a complaint against me is heard. Well, it certainly feels to me like totalitarian authoritarianism to suppress all dissent and ensure that the results of elections suit the interests of the current ruling cabal in Equity. And this vendetta has been orchestrated by Linda Rook, the President, David John, the Honorary Treasurer, and Paul Fleming, the General Secretary, Chief Executive. It is clear, therefore, from all of the above that A, Equity has broken its own rules. They place much store by the fact that their rules are all that matter. Nothing else matters. Well, they've broken their rules. B, Equity has deprived me of my democratic rights as a member of good standing and long service to our union. C, that all normally accepted principles of free speech and of natural justice have been violated. D, responsible and traditional trade unionism has been brought into disrepute by this unwarranted persecution directed against me. E, it may therefore be possible for you to understand my distress. Oh, why would we do all this, they say. Of course, I have no way of knowing why this bullying has continued. I can't read minds. But all the evidence points to a personal and political vendetta against me, orchestrated by the 3 officers of my own trades union, Equity. Also, I cannot help but wonder if this is because of my age. See, others subjected to such disciplinary measures all appear to be above a certain age. Also, is it because I'm not got any allegiance to any political party, and apparently that's a sin these days, since the ideologues of the left and the right within the left seem determined to crush all centrists like myself so that they can fight the battle with the right for control over the union? Does it have anything to do with the colour of my skin, I wonder? Well, I mentioned the last with some reluctance, for I like to think that the apparatchiks in Equity are not individually racist. I hope not. I would think it unlikely. But there is no doubt that institutional racism exists in Equity, just as it does in much of society. Now, Poppy, you said you had studied law at university. You'll be glad to know that I did some research before I came here this morning, and I came across this by the Lord Denning, Master of the Rolls in the High Court of Appeal, whom undoubtedly you'll have heard of. In a famous lecture about trade unions, he quoted William Shakespeare. And do you remember what William Shakespeare said, since I think you were in that play? "Oh, it is excellent to have a giant's strength, but it is tyrannous to use it like a giant." Also, you will note that renowned authority on trades unionism, Lord John Hendy KC, who was invited to speak at the Equity Annual Representative Conference 2024, which took place recently, he said it would be wrong to describe any officer of a trade union as a boss of the union, because all officials of a trade union are servants of the members. Finally, I thank you, my peers, my adopted family, for granting me this opportunity to present my submission. I sincerely hope that this appeals committee, supposedly independent, will prove its independence from the current establishment within Equity by ruling what is obvious, that the disciplinary committee and its findings are now declared null and void. So now the question is what I do about it. And the question is, do we just shut up, bow our heads in Uriah Heepish obeisance to our trade union masters? Or I can go on telling my truth, and Equity members and the public at large can decide for themselves if this is the kind of socialism that we want this country to be enslaved to, or is this just a blip? Because after all, responsible trade unionism is important and can do wonders and has done wonders for this country. Thank you very much for listening to this Chin Wag. If you have any comments, you know how to get in touch with me. Bye.